Okay, so welcome to the next part of the kind of getting to know Blender series. So we've covered how to navigate, how to scale, rotate, translate our object. We've learned edit mode, we've learned vertex mode, we've learned edge mode, and we've learned face mode. So now this is going to kind of get into using a lot of tools on the sidebar, which is really the bread and butter of Blender, really. These are going to be the tools that you're going to be using 95% of the time. So we're just going to jump into how to use them. So we're in object mode right now. Currently, there's not really much we can do, at least not that we want to be doing in object mode. So we're going to go to edit mode, and you're going to see on the left-hand side this sidebar has doubled in size. And on this sidebar are going to be all the fundamental tools that you're going to be using, again, 95% of the time. This is your bread and butter of what you're going to be doing when you're in Blender. So we're going to break down each of the tools on the sidebar here, at least the important ones, and I'm going to explain to you how they work, and then that should hopefully set you off into creating a 3D asset. So, to begin with, adding a cube. Well, you might have seen me do this in the other video. This is as simple as highlighting your own box and clicking and dragging. And you can make the own dimensions of this cube. So obviously it's a bit different if we go to add, we add a cube, that's just going to add in another cube with preset dimensions. If we add this cube in, we can click and drag, we can add the dimensions, and we can change the size, the shape, etc. So that's if you want to be more particular. And you can also do it with cones, cylinders, UV spheres, icospheres, stuff like that. That's kind of just proportions, really. But we immediately begin with the extrude region, which is probably one of, if not the most important tool in Blender. You're going to be using this all the time, and it is a fantastic tool. It is just an absolute fundamental tool in Blender. So what is extruding is probably the best place to start. Extruding at its core is just pulling out or changing a bit of geometry. So you're essentially molding it, you're making it bigger, you're making it smaller, and you can do that to any part of the model. So for example, we've got you know what, let's make this a bit more complicated, shall we? Let's add in a cone. Okay, so we've got a cone. I'm quickly just going to rotate this like that, and that's going to do fine. So if we go to the extrude option, so sorry, I'm going to just select the face of the cone. So I'm going to select this face here. I'm going to press extrude, and what you'll see is that you've got the gizmo here with a plus sign. If we pull that plus sign out, you'll see that it extrudes just that face. And again, all the aligning geometry with it. And you can do that to as many of these as you want. So we can just do it to all 5 of these, and we can drag that out, and that's now extruded. And you can also do the inverse of it. You can drag it in, and it looks a bit weird, but it goes both ways. And the other thing about extruding is that, say that I want to drag this out here, but then for some reason I want to then drag it in here. What I'm going to do, I pull it back, and then you see the faces that are at the edge of it, or the end of it, have now been pulled inside. Which is really, really cool. And adding on to that, which again you've seen in all the other videos and all the other kind of ways you can use these tools, scaling, rotating, and translating works the exact same. So we can extrude scale. So you'll see there, if we extrude there and then we scale it down. No, I've done that terribly wrong. There we go. So you see, it kind of, you can mess around with the extrusions, you can mess around with the scale of it. And it's really, really cool. So extrude is a tool you're going to be using pretty much all the time. There's really not a time when you're going to not be using extruding if you want to expand different parts into geometry. It's much more less taxing on the hardware if you just extrude something as opposed to just adding another cone, so to speak. So that's extruding. Really, really, really good tool. Very basic in nature, but really, really important to just kind of general Blender modeling. Excellent. So that is extruding. That now takes us to inset faces. So inset faces, it's almost extruding downwards is the best way to explain that. I think it's much easier if you just see what it does. So we're going to select the face of the cone. We're then going to press select inset faces, and then we're going to scale it down. and you see how it's now kind of extruded within the mesh. It's making it so the bottom of the cone, it has more faces now, and it kind of subdivides it and allows you to kind of um, just extrude it out. So, for example, if we wanted to make this the bottom of an ice cream cone, we'd inset the faces. Would maybe do we can inset it downwards. I think maybe no. So we can inset it. I can then delete the faces, and then boom, you see how all the geometry has kind of almost sort of lined up. I think that's more of a problem with this. Oh, there you go. So you see how it's kind of deleted the face. So then what we could do, we can maybe just extrude all of these down. So we just right click and press extrude edges, and we can go all the way down, and then you can use it with everything. Again, it's a difficult thing to describe because you can just do pretty much everything you want with it. But that's kind of how you can combo using extrude and inset faces, because you can inset it inwards, delete the face, extrude it downwards, and then just keep insetting. Like it's almost just a cycle that you could just kind of keep getting on with, which is really, really good. Cool. And also another thing I just realized I didn't show you, but I did without telling you. What you can do if you don't want to use the tools on the sidebar here, if you just select and then you right click the menu, this menu here, if you right click will just tell you everything. So you can just extrude the edges via this way if you really want to. There's nothing stopping you from doing that at all. Right click again, we can bridge edge loops, whatnot, but we won't get to that right now. But yeah, right click is also a very viable option instead if you don't want to use the sidebar. Cool. Okay, so beveling. I'm going to use a cube for this. There we go. Okay, so beveling edges. I mean, thankfully the icons kind of give you a better idea here. You're in a way smoothing the model. So as you can see for the cube, these kind of vertices, they're quite sharp. And it's more a process if you want to smooth them down. This is what beveling does. So we will select the whole object, and then we're going to press bevel, and then we use, there we go, we use the gizmo, and now you see now that it goes from quite harsh sharp corners to now it smooths it down, and that makes kind of a nice cube right there. And again, if you want to kind of combo this, we can now right click on the face, we can extrude the face, oh sorry, no, we can inset the face, that's the one, and then we can kind of, that can maybe be like a mirror or a window or a box or something like that. So kind of they all work in tandem with each other, which is really, really good. Though there is a word of warning. Obviously, beveling makes things smoother, but in 3D modeling, a much smoother object means it has much more faces, which means that the computer needs to load a lot more things, therefore making that asset very, very expensive on a computer, and it can make it very, very slow. So just be careful what you're smoothing. It's absolutely okay to use these tools as long as you're being careful and not, beveling something a million times and that it's like the smoothest ball ever that's just going to make your computer crash. You don't want that. So just kind of use them as you see fit, but just kind of be cautious as you go about it. Cool, excellent. So that is beveling. That is the bevel tool. The next one is loop cut. Loop cut is, this is a really, really good one. So, well, it's fairly self-explanatory. What loop cut is, you are adding a loop into a mesh and you're cutting that line all across it. So, say for example, I wanted to make a barrel. So again, we're going to just completely abandon this. We're going to go add. We're going to go a cylinder. Say that I want to make a barrel. What I want to do is, obviously with a barrel, it kind of extrudes outwards, and the way you do that is by adding a subdivision in the middle. So we're going to go loop cut, and what you can do, if you hold down left click, it lets you choose, you can slide this loop cut all the way up and down the model to kind of pick where you want that cut. Thankfully, Blender has automatically said this is the middle of the model, and that's exactly where I want it. So we're going to click loop cut there. And there you go. That's a loop cut. You can add as many as you want. It just kind of goes infinitely. And again, it kind of goes, the more subdivisions you have, the more loop cuts you have, the more smoother the model's going to be. It's more smoother, more faces, more loading process on the computer. So just, have caution. But for now, we only need the one. So we've got that loop cut in the middle. We're then going to go into edge mode, which we already are. And then we're just going to extrude it outwards. And there you go. You can already see how that's starting to become a barrel, right? So then what you can do, if you wanted to kind of then be a bit more crazy with it, you can add like ridges. So again, if we're making this a barrel, we want to have kind of the lid or the ridges at the bottom. So we want maybe one there, that'll do. So then we go into face mode. We select all of these, and then we can extrude the faces. There you go. So then we have a lid. We have a really nice looking lid for a barrel. So like I said, as I keep saying, you can just combo all of these together if you really want. And the reason, if you notice, that I press extrude faces along normals, because if we press extrude faces and we go up, you see how that's kind of sliding up and down, and we don't want that. So what extruding faces along normals does, it's a bit advanced terminology for what we need right now, but essentially it moves it along a normal scale, and it moves it kind of on the correct axis instead of the axis of the object you selected. Basically, it just moves it how it should move. So that looks like a nice lid for a barrel now, doesn't it? Which is very nice. Cool. So that is loop cut. Again, very simple to use tool, but when you combo it with other stuff, it's really, really effective. So the last tool that we're going to use is knife. So imagine this is like the little brother of loop cut. So with loop cut, where it adds an entire loop, the knife tool just allows you to essentially um, add polys at any point on the model. And again, it's much easier to show you how to do this. So if we click the knife tool, I can click anywhere on the model. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click along there, along there, along there, and there you go. See, that's just kind of added it onto that model. And now I can go into face mode, which I already am in. I can click on this face, and I can just extrude it. So again, where a loop cut adds a loop, a knife tool is just essentially um, adding extra faces if you need to. And again, it's a fairly situational tool, but it does have its uses, especially with character modeling. And if you want to be more finer with the details and assets, definitely really does come in handy there. And in terms of optimization, when you're trying to worry about topology and whatnot, again, stuff we haven't got to worry about right now. But when you worry about topology, you really want to have kind of all equal faces and have as little faces as you can. So a knife tool is what kind of comes in handy when you're trying to include optimization.